Episode 15 of My Demon opens with Guwan's heartbreaking decision to leave Do-hee, weighed down by guilt. Do-hee, however, had wanted to work through their problems together, but Guwan left before she could even share her feelings. Watching him vanish, she bursts into tears. Days pass, and though Do-hee puts on a strong front, her life is anything but easy. Between Sukmin's scandal and the demands of her company, she has her hands full. She meets with the chief prosecutor, who, in an amusing twist, turns out to be the blind date she had before meeting Guwan. The prosecutor explains that Sukmin's case is closed since he's officially dead, though his body hasn't been found. Do-hee, uneasy, urges him to keep investigating, as she senses there are still secrets buried. At her office, colleagues speculate about Guwan's absence, while Suan struggles to accept her new reality, mourning her brother's actions. Her children try to comfort her, offering a rare moment of vulnerability for a character not typically known for evoking sympathy. In Sunwol, Ga-young, preparing to leave, reflects on her last conversation with Guwan. She realizes she let her obsession consume her, leading to her current state. Meanwhile, the Mafia gang, grieving their lost leader, stumbles through their new venture, a restaurant. Bok-yu takes up the mantle of keeping the foundation going and contemplates giving Do-hee a cross necklace, though he hesitates. His girlfriend, on the other hand, makes it her mission to look after Do-hee. Da-jong grows concerned as she watches Do-hee dive into work as a distraction. She has her own experience with heartbreak, and she urges Do-hee to face her grief head-on, reminding her that pain must be felt to begin healing. Seok-hoon also checks in regularly, making sure she eats and trying to lift her spirits. He shares an old memory of Chun-seok, revealing that her aunt once confided that loving Do-hee brought her a mix of joy and guilt. Eventually, we discover Sukmin is alive, hiding with a burnt face among the homeless, biding his time and plotting revenge. Unaware of this, Do-hee continues her routine, although she deeply misses Guwan. She tells herself she's always been alone, but secretly longs for him. Unknown to her, Guwan returns nightly to watch over her, tending to her silently. He even heals her knee after a drunken fall at a company outing. As the episode unfolds, Do-hee's friends rally around her, and Bok-yu finally gives her the cross necklace. The sight of it stirs memories of her past life as Wol-sim, a lowly courtesan saved by Yi-sun, a noble who gave her a reason to live. Their bond led her to love him, even though it ultimately resulted in her death for her Catholic faith. Through these memories, Do-hee gains new insight into Guwan, though she still wishes he hadn't left her. Spurred on by these memories, Do-hee rushes to their favorite spot by the river in the hope of finding Guwan. Instead, she's ambushed by Sukmin, who intends to use her as bait. He knows Guwan will come to her rescue and reveals he burned his face to remain hidden. Delusional, Sukmin blames everyone else for his failures and swears vengeance on both Do-hee and Guwan. To lure Guwan, Sukmin wounds Do-hee's leg and threatens to kill her. Guwan arrives just in time, his fury igniting his eyes in a fiery red glow. Using his powers, he drags Sukmin away from Do-hee and causes the rooftop to collapse over him. Afraid Guwan might kill Sukmin, Do-hee rushes to embrace him, begging him to stop. Her touch and reassurances bring him back from the edge, and he releases Sukmin from the rubble. But just as they hold each other, Sukmin, barely alive, grabs a gun and fires. Do-hee throws herself in front of Guwan, taking the bullet. She collapses in his arms, lifeless. Devastated, Guwan whispers an ancient incantation, breathing his own life into her. Do-hee stirs, asking if he saved her. With a bittersweet smile, Guwan tells her that in saving her, he saved himself. His form begins to dissipate, his body breaking into embers that drift into the night. All that's left is his wedding ring. Memories of their journey flood her mind as she clutches the ring, the weight of losing him finally sinking in. The screen fades on her grief as she holds onto his last trace, heartbroken. Episode 16 of My Demon opens with a tearful farewell as Guan dissolves into embers, leaving Do-hee heartbroken. Even the deity, moved by his sacrifice, sheds a tear. In Guwan's office, all the clocks stop, marking his departure. Meanwhile, Bok-gyu, Ga-young, and others who knew him in different ways mourn his absence. In the days following Guwan's death, Do-hee is overcome with grief, struggling to move on. Sukmin, now in police custody, revels in his twisted sense of victory, muttering and laughing to himself. His behavior leaves the police convinced he's unhinged, and they sympathize with Do-hee, who remains in shock and is unable to talk about the incident, especially since Guwan is still missing. Sukmin's arrest ends with him receiving a death sentence. He's set to live out his final days in a prison cell haunted by his mother's ghost, a fitting retribution for his numerous crimes. His wife, Sarah, distances herself from his legacy, stepping away from the company to open a shelter for children affected by domestic abuse. She reaches out to Do-hee with an apology, promising to channel her pain into making a difference. Do-hee encourages her, admiring her courage to pursue a better path. As for Do-gyung, we learn he only ever wanted to protect himself and his mother from Sukmin's cruelty, though he was ultimately powerless to do so. Suwon, meanwhile, parts ways with her brother's legacy too, committing herself to align with Do-hee and Seok-hoon for the sake of her children. By the end, Sukmin is left alone in his cell, haunted by his past and abandoned by those he once tormented. Do-hee's grief is overwhelming, and the absence of her beloved weighs heavily on her, especially during the Christmas season they'd planned to spend together. Her only consolation comes from Seok-hoon and Da-jong, who do their best to look after her. On Christmas Day, Do-hee visits the river where she and Guwan shared so many memories. In her desperation, she makes a final plea to the deity for Guwan's return. To her astonishment, time seems to stand still as water droplets hover in the air, and Guwan appears before her. In a moment of disbelief, they embrace, finally reunited. Unbeknownst to Do-hee, Guwan had struck a secret bargain with the deity in his final moments. He wagered on their survival during the tattoo transference, promising to abide by whatever outcome it brought. As the ritual succeeded, Guwan won the bet. Touched by his selfless sacrifice and Do-hee's heartfelt wish, the deity ultimately honors the bargain and returns Guwan to his demonic duties, allowing him and Do-hee a second chance at happiness. With renewed appreciation, they throw themselves back into life together. Guwan also finally reveals to Do-hee the truth about her father's plea years ago. He'd asked Guwan to save his pregnant wife and unborn child. Realizing that her father's bargain allowed her those precious years with her family, Do-hee feels a profound sense of gratitude. Together, they celebrate their long-awaited Christmas, and when Guwan returns to work, he's met with joy and relief. Seok-hoon, in particular, greets him with enthusiasm, embracing him repeatedly to ensure he's truly back. Once the chaos settles, Seok-hoon is appointed chairperson, and his first shareholders' meeting shows his steady, responsible leadership. With Do-hee's support and even Suwon's backing, the company moves forward with a renewed sense of purpose and direction. Before departing for England, Ga-young visits her old neighborhood and encounters a young girl suffering abuse from her father. Remembering how Guwan once saved her, Ga-young decides to stay in Korea to protect the girl, choosing to be the support she once needed herself. Bok-gyu and Da-jong's relationship becomes strong enough to go public. Guwan and Do-hee navigate a minor hiccup, just one of their usual playful arguments, underscoring their deep connection. 4 months later, they're still as devoted as ever. In the final scene, they share a sweet kiss in the park while the deity watches them with a fond smile, a testament to their resilience and love.